Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hey everybody, we are back for our fourth episode. Oh my gosh.
Episode number 4. This one is all about something super spooky and super scary. Clients who are ghosting you. Woo! Sorry, you know I had to do that.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
I know. Oh, yeah. This can be such a problem and so discouraging when you're starting out or when you send off an invoice and you're like, what the heck? So yeah, let's talk about some of the ways you can combat these scary ghosts and things that you might be doing on your end that are causing clients to ghost you.
First of all, I have to say, my dad and I had a very funny conversation about this. And I can't remember if I told you this or not, Cami, but according to like my dad and what he said people in his generation like think of ghosting means like you're pretending to be someone you're not in my dad's mind. And I was like, no, Dad. Ghosting is when someone like just stops talking to you.
Yeah, that's catfishing, Dad. Okay.
But yeah, now I've been asking a couple of different people like what they think the difference or like what they think ghosting means to see if anybody else identified with what he thought the meaning of it was.
Yeah.
But anyone like our age, our generation just thinks of somebody like ghosting out on you, like on a date or,
right. Like when you're dating and they just kind of fade off into nothing. Yeah.
Yep. So just to put that out there for anyone listening who thinks that ghosting is pretending to be someone you're not, that's not the definition we're using in this episode.
Yeah. So, clients ghosting you. I think it used to bother me way more than it does now. Now I'm just like, okay, that's fine. But before it was like, why aren't you booking with me, please? But, yeah, it's weird. Did you have any things like starting out? Were you reaching out to people and following up, or are you doing that more now?
I was following up, I guess, the same I do now, like as I did then. Wow, I think my grammar of that was absolutely terrible. What I was trying to say is that I still follow up in the same way that I like did back then. I've like tweaked my strategy a little bit, but I'll always remember like the first fall of being full time. And I was so excited because I was talking to this bride. We had spoke on the phone. We had gotten all this stuff together. I had sent her the invoice and the proposal through Dipsado, and then nothing, like literally nothing. She was just gone. Yeah. I followed up with her probably like 4 or 5 times because I remember being so confused because that was the first time that I had sent like a big proposal like that to anybody. And she had been giving me such like positive vibes when we had spoke on the phone that I thought I had the cat in the bag, essentially.
Right.
So for her to just like straight up disappear and just really what gets to me is like people just not having the courtesy to say that they've changed their mind or they've chosen a different route, which is fine. Like I don't care, totally, but it does bother me like when you don't let me know. So I don't necessarily get annoyed or like mad when someone ghosts me now. It's just more that nagging of like, really, you don't have the courtesy to tell me. Like I get it that you've just like disappeared, like okay, whatever, but
right
at the same time, like I don't know, it's just frustrating.
Well, so many people now are just literally price shopping. They just literally want to reach out to you, get the price, compare it with someone else, and then go with the other person. Like, so they're not even thinking, oh, there's another person who's literally waiting on me to respond to them and create a connection with. They're just getting the price and moving on with their life. So if your price was too high or is there such thing as too low? I don't know. Or they just didn't like it. Then they obviously just don't have the time to respond back. But yeah, that's like one of the things now. I'm way more aggressive about my follow-up than I was when I started out. Like I actually have little funnels set up in Dubsado. I guess they're funnels where I say like send first follow-up email for every lead. They kind of go through this little funnel system so I know I can track which ones I've sent a follow-up email to, which ones I've sent my second follow-up, and then the final follow-up, which is essentially being like, let me know if you still want to book with me. Bye. Like kind of just exiting the situation. So I have my little funnel set up through that. So actually tracking it. But before, like, I think I was almost too afraid to follow up. Like I was being annoying or pestering them. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I think so many of our clients are so busy or so overwhelmed with wedding planning that sending that follow-up email is honestly a great way for them to be like, oh yeah, I completely forgot. Thank you so much for reminding me. You know, that's typically the response you get when someone's actually going to book with you, is that they're grateful for the follow-up. So it really is just a matter of like being proactive on your end to avoid the ghosts.
I have a question in terms of Dubsado. Is that an automatic? Like, is there a workflow with like an email trigger that sends a follow up? Oh, it's just kind of like a to-do list, like reminder.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a reminder thing for me. I definitely could make it automatic, and it wouldn't be that hard to make a workflow for it because it's literally 1 week after, 2 weeks after, and then like 3 weeks after. But for me, I'm not getting like hundreds of inquiries, so it's pretty basic, and I like to personalize the emails and not just their names, like actually mention something about their stuff. So it's not a workflow for me right now, but I don't know. I treat all my inquiries like very seriously, so I can remember it pretty easily.
Right.
But yeah, it is nice to see which ones followed up and which ones didn't. So
I've heard from people that some people do have it automated, and the problem is sometimes the lead responds and they forgot to turn off the email automation, and so like 3 days later another email will go out being like, do you still want to book with me? And the client will be like, either I already told you no, or lead, I guess I keep mixing up client and lead, but the lead will be like, we were just talking like 2 days ago, so I don't have it as an automatic workflow either.
See, that is my nightmare. Yeah, I don't want to ever just have like automatic emails going out to someone when they're like, I literally just told you I don't want to work with you, or that they do want to work with me. Either one, I'd be
because that's the point where
so
it's
embarrassed.
Just awkward.
Yeah, and also I don't want to give away the secret that I'm like sending out automatic emails, because then they just feel like, I don't know, I'm not as special, even though it's better on my end, but still.
No, I get that, because you want to make the personal connection with all of them. I mean, Dubsado is like always an open tab on my computer, honestly. So I'll normally like look at that like a couple times a week. I'll open the leads tab and see like, okay, who's still in here? Who did I send a quote to? Who haven't I sent a quote to? So like, okay, get this. This has been frustrating for me recently too, because when I get, sometimes when I get inquiries, the people, like the leads will make interesting comments within like the free form message box, because they can type up a message. And they'll make a comment about a certain thing, this or that they want to include. Or like one of my Dubsado forms, there was like a weird glitch and they were allowed to submit it without actually filling out everything I needed. Which is like,
dang.
Yeah, that was an accident, and that like never happens. That was just like a total fluke. But anyways, I had these like uncompleted forms, or I had certain information like I needed that I couldn't like make a quote without that information. So the first thing I do is like follow up with these people to, first of all, be like, thank you so much for inquiring. Second of all, can you tell me a little more about like A, B, or C, right? Like whatever information I need from them. And sometimes people won't even answer that. And so I'm like,
oh my gosh.
So I'm literally like, I can't give you your free proposal and quote that I promise until I like get this from you. So I don't know.
Oh my gosh. But at least with the bonus thing about Dubsado is if you're sending them an email or a follow-up through there, you can see if they opened it or not. So
yes, that is the one thing that like when people do stuff like that, I purposely go into Dubsado and send an email from there to see if I can get any sort of like information from them, which by the way, there is a train going.
I was going to say, is that the train? Because it sounds amazing in the podcast.
Can you hear it? Yeah, Cami and I were joking before, like because I do live right by the train tracks, what do we do in an episode when the train goes by? And the answer is basically we just deal with it. So
I know. I really want to come up with something with the train, but I got to think on it. So
train break.
It's going to be like a train break or something funny. I don't know. Like, we'll think about it. What was I saying? The darn train.
No,
I lost my train of thought.
Lol.
Oh my god.
The pun master. We were just talking about using Dubsado to like try to see when somebody has read an email.
Yes, thanks for getting me back on track. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm done.
Stop.
Oh yeah, so yes, in Dubsado, if you send the email, you can see if they opened it, which is the best thing ever, because you're like, I know you opened that proposal, but you can pretend like you didn't know. You'd be like, hey, just want to see if you had any questions or if you got the proposal, even though you know they did. So yeah, that's super helpful. And honestly, if I see people keep opening my follow-up emails, but literally aren't responding to any of them, probably not going to book with me. Like usually someone will be like, I get some responses like, oh, I'm sorry, I've just been really busy. I'll get back to you next week. And, you just respect their time. But if they're just opening all your emails and not responding at all, it's probably not good. So,
yeah.
But yeah, like also it's not just about the follow-up. Like sometimes you have to get to the root of the issue. Like, why are your clients ghosting you? Why are you getting so many ghosts in your life? Why are you haunted in your business? But there's so many different reasons and factors it could be. It could just be that the timing's not right. Maybe it's not right for the client to purchase their wedding invitations or their custom wooden sign or whatever right now. Like we're just kind of price shopping, and then they saw the price and they're like, oh, I'm going to save up for that. And they literally just don't respond because I don't know, it's not a priority in their life. Like I said before, maybe it's just price shopping. They're just trying to, scope out who's better fit for their budget. Or maybe your solution doesn't just actually fit their needs. Like maybe after they email you the first time, you send back a quote or, more about your style. They just realize you're not going to be the best fit. And that is totally fine. It is totally okay if you're not the best fit for them, for their budget, for their style, whatever. It's totally cool. And honestly, it probably does you a favor if you don't end up booking the client who doesn't think you're a great fit. So, or it could be something totally on your end, like maybe your onboarding process is super clunky or confusing. So this is something I would definitely say you might want to troubleshoot yourself. I would recommend going through your entire booking process as if you were a bride, or having your friend do it, or your mom, because we all know moms are horrible with the internet. So your mom can get through your inquiry form and go through like your booking process and figure out how to sign the contract and pay you, then it's pretty much foolproof. So
that's always the thing, to be entirely honest, that I'm worried about most. I get almost like obsessive over it. It drives me crazy because I'm worried that, like my Dubsado form won't work for some reason, or are they going to find the inquiry page? Like I get like really hung up on things like this, even though I know I've done my very best to be able to direct them to those places. And like, I'm getting leads. People are clearly filling it out just fine. But they always say this is the kind of catch-22 of like stationary and custom wedding invitations, is that the average intake form should be like 7 or 8 questions, I think, like so that people don't lose interest.
Right.
Or, like the longer the form gets, like the more unlikely that they'll fill it out. But the reality of it is you can't send somebody an accurate quote if you don't have that information. So
I know.
It sucks. So I'm like, how else can I do this? Which now I'm kind of loving this because this is turning into a bit of a brainstorming session, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so what if I did an inquiry form with like a really like some basic questions, right? Maybe there's only 3 or 4 questions. And then I have like an automatic workflow in Dubsado that sends a follow-up a day later that's like, I need you to complete this quick questionnaire with some additional details for me to get you to like the next step of receiving your quote. Like maybe breaking it down a little bit so it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah, but then what if that, I'm just brainstorming here with you. What if that second email of the next information, that one gets lost in their inbox, or they open it and forget to read it or unmark it as unread, because I do that all the time. Or they're just like, oh, I don't have time to fill this out right now. Or they open it in mobile and it's too hard to fill out. And so they're like, oh, I'll do it later. And then they never do. And you still aren't able to accurately give them a quote, or maybe someone else has already got back to them with a quote and they're like, oh, well, I still don't know the price on this one because I have to fill out all this other stuff. But does get so tricky with custom. Like, are you actually keeping clients, like turning them off because you have so many questions on your inquiry form?
Right, because the inquiry forms are not short. And like, I've looked at a ton of people's inquiry forms because I'm curious about the length of inquiry forms for like stationers and calligraphers. And honestly, all of ours are pretty long. Like anyone in this industry doing custom wedding invitations, there's not really a way to like circumnavigate that. And I think you're right. Like, it does get worrisome of what if someone's not in your system. But then it's like, but what if you do get them in your system? At least you have the chance to follow up with them. I don't know. Like, it could be like an interesting experiment.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, at least you have their email and their name, so you know they're interested, but you might not have all their information. Or do you just get all their information from the get-go so you can serve them quicker? So
which is what I would prefer. That's definitely what I would prefer. But I'm like worried for all these people like who are on mobile, right? And they're scrolling. And they're like, oh my God, like how much of this do I have to fill out? Like,
you're like, sorry. I mean, but I guess you could shorten it up and be like, don't ask about their wedding vision. Just give them a blank space to chat, to tell you whatever. How many invitations do you need? And when's your wedding date? Basically. And like what? Then it gets into what pieces do you need and blah blah blah. Like, I guess if you had like packages, that would work best in terms of, you know, you don't need to ask them what pieces you need. You could just be like, here's package 1 with RSVP and your invitation. Here's package 2 with an extra details card, if that makes sense.
Right, but then we all know that all those packages become very like diluted, or they change anyways because they're like, oh, but I want this or I don't want that, and there's like not clearly, guys, we're sitting here like figuring this out with like the rest of you guys, because honestly, the whole like getting ghosted by clients, by leads, by whoever it is, just still like puzzles me. But that's because my instinct, my like knee-jerk reaction is to respond to literally every email I get ever because that's the person I am. And why would you not respond to somebody? That's just like a personality type thing for me.
Well, I was thinking back to when I was planning my wedding and I was reaching out to vendors like photographers, and I reached out to like 10 photographers to get prices and just talk to them and see which one I liked the best, which would be a good fit. And I think most of the people I said, hey, I decided to go with someone else. Thanks so much for your time. But I think there was definitely like 3 who I did not email back at all. And, I was busy. I was planning a wedding. I didn't have the brain space to try to remember every single photographer I emailed and, go back and find it in my email and respond back to them. So, honestly, I think it just comes down that the person's busy. They got what they needed. It's not going to work. Which is, you just kind of have to let it go. I think the biggest thing is to not take it personally. But of course, going through the steps that you can do on your end to, serve your client in a way that's making them know that, hey, I'm not going to forget about you, even if you forgot about me. And you just keep reaching out and make sure you do your follow-up. But what were you saying, not earlier, this chat, but like a couple weeks ago, you were talking about when you called a client instead of just following up via email, you actually gave them a call, ended up booking, right?
Yes. So my dad and I had a really like lengthy conversation one day because I got really discouraged because what happened is I did not have a lead ghost on me. What I had them do instead by accident was reply like with the message between like, it was the mother of the bride and the daughter who had been like discussing the wedding invitations. And the mother of the bride replied to me and accidentally forwarded what she and her daughter had been saying, which is basically like, that's insane how much these cost. It's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. I'll leave that there. That's like basically what it was. So then I'm sitting there like, wow, that feels kind of crappy, but I get it. I'm like, it is expensive. It's a lot of money. So then I had called my dad and I also called you, Cami, and talked to you about that because I was like really discouraged because that's the opposite end of the spectrum of they didn't ghost you. You just got like a really honest response on accident that they didn't mean to share with you. And that's when my dad mentioned, he was like, have you ever considered like picking up the phone to call a lead when they first come through, like when they first fill out your questionnaire? Like, have you taken that approach before? And I was like, well, I've taken the approach where I try to schedule a call with them, but I've never just like called them out of the blue, like with them not expecting it, right?
Right.
Just like, hey, so I have your number. It's me. Like,
hey, it's me.
You filled out my inquiry form. Here I am. So I want to say it was funny. He was like in town a week later, and one of the current brides that I'm working with booked with me that weekend. And she was a bride that the first thing I did when her inquiry came through was I didn't even like email her back. I just picked up the phone and dialed her number because I had been going through like a dry spell of bookings. I was like, I have to book somebody. I'm going crazy. So I called her and we talked on the phone, and that built some like rapport. Am I saying that word right? I'm always afraid I'm going to say it.
I think that's right.
I'm always afraid I'm going to say it wrong.
I know.
And so she and I went back and forth a little bit, tweaked a couple of things, and she pretty much booked with me within like 24 to 48 hours of like us initially speaking on the phone. So clearly that strategy worked like perfectly with her. It worked really great.
Yeah.
And then I've had like a couple inquiries since then where I've tried to call, and if they don't pick up the first time, you're generally not going to have much luck. Like if I leave a voicemail,
they're not going to call you back.
They probably are not going to call me back, because then I follow up via email and I'm like, hey, I left you a voicemail. I just need a couple things from you so I can put together your quote. And then there's now a couple leads that have been sitting there that I just haven't heard anything from. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like sometimes a call like that works really well, especially depending on the person's communication style.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's all about timing. Like one girl, by the time I replied to her and like got her a quote, I think had already chosen someone else. And that sucks. Like I was out of town when that happened.
Yeah.
So that's a hot lead, right? Because she like was looking to book, and I was actually at QuickBooks Connect. I was in California. There was no way I could sit down to like do a quote when I'm like at a conference. So I had to like put it off till like the next day, and by like 24 48 hours later, whatever it was, when she like replied to me, she had like chosen someone else, and I was like, dang
that is fast. I know some of these people are getting like their quotes and proposals out so fast, and honestly, if you can do that, it is a great way to book clients, because you are going to be the first person in their inbox when it comes to giving them a price. So they're most likely, you are like have a little bit of an advantage there. Mine are within like 2 or 3 days, I would say 1 to 3 days.
I also like don't want to, that's the other thing. I'm like, at what point is it scary for me to be like an hour within them acquiring, like, here's your quote? Like,
I don't think it's scary. I mean, so many people expect like instant customer service at this point. Like think about like Twitter and customer service. Like you're like tweeting, oh, this thing sucks or whatever. And then like customer service rep will get back to you immediately. Like I think 24 hours is honestly too late at this point. But anyway, I'm still a little bit slow because it's just me over here, but I'm doing the best I can.
But I know. We all are.
Yeah, we're all trying so hard. But yeah, I really love the idea of calling a lead just like out of the blue, because I think that FaceTime, well, it's not really FaceTime, but you know, that human connection and just hearing their voice, having them like actually talk to you and realize there's another person on the line and not just, you know, a company like Minted or something where it's just a big, huge place, but it's literally just, you know, a small business where they're making a connection could really help with the drop-off rates there. Because like they already feel a little bit more invested. You're investing more into them. So it's kind of that reciprocating thing, like a relationship where like you gave them something, they're willing to give you something back. So
yes, absolutely. I mean, it's tough when like the average rate, like booking rate for our industry is, it's like 20% or something like that.
It's really low. But honestly, I mean, if you were booking at 100%, then you're not.
Your prices are too low.
Your prices are too low. So yeah, you don't want to be booking every single person that inquires with you, because not every single person is going to be a great fit either. But yeah, a lot of people just, I mean, they're just running out of time. Your email gets lost. We're all so busy. Oh my gosh. But
you know, that's another interesting thing that I've had someone ask me before, like whether or not I'm worried when a client like books with me quickly, right? Because I like don't have time to like thoroughly vet them. And honestly, I'm like, when they book quickly, that's normally a good sign, because it means that they're going to
It means they
continue
trust
to
you.
interact with you and trust you like throughout the process.
Yeah, it means they literally don't need any hand holding. They already know they want to book with you. Like most of the time when clients book quickly with me, they are very specific in what they want. They're like, I follow you on Instagram. I love what you did with this. I love Crest. I can't wait to put my dog in this, blah, 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 blah. Let's do this, whatever the price is. So it's always someone who already kind of knows my style and how I roll. And yeah, they're just so much more likely to trust you. So I love those fast bookings. It's the ones who it might be the mom or someone who doesn't know you as well. And they're like, my daughter told me about you. And then you kind of have to warm them up a little bit and explain like, I'm a legitimate business. Yes. I'm not just some weird person on the internet getting your money. So yeah, you do just kind of have to nurture each lead differently based on their needs. But that can totally help with those drop-off rates with ghosting too. It's just kind of like engaging with that lead as they're in their own style. Like maybe you can tell a phone call is going to be great. Or maybe they're a mom, and I think scheduling a phone call for a mom is awesome because they're busy and they love to like actually talk to you in person. So I would definitely do the call if it was the mother of the bride or like a planner or something.
Yes.
The bride usually are more busy and want to do email. In my experience is what I've noticed. So yeah, just kind of gauging who your lead is and what their communication style is. And also I can be super creepy and find the lead on social media and like be like, oh, I love y'all's engagement photos or whatever. And then that also works too. If you want to be a creeper like me, totally works.
I actually this is funny. I remember our viewpoints on like social media and clients like slightly differ a little bit. Yeah. I tend to be more scared of my brides on social media than Cami is. She's a little more outgoing in that regard. But I actually did have a lead who had like inquired with me. I sent her all the information and I hadn't heard anything. And she replied to like one of my Instagram stories. And then I asked her, I was like, hey, did you get the proposal that I sent to you? Because I just wanted to like know if you're still interested. And so we actually did have that dialogue in like Instagram DM because she had like instigated contact with me.
Right.
But I love that this is funny because normally I'm the like kind of like the bold, like do whatever person. Yeah. In this instance, you're like way bolder than me in terms of
I finding people on social. I try not to make it weird, you know. I'm like genuinely trying to be your friend and like be cool. But sometimes I can't find them on social media, which is, I don't know, maybe it's like the journalism thing in me, but like I love finding them and like looking at all their photos and getting to know their story better. It just helps. Yeah, it helps me just like understand what they're coming to me for.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I totally stalk them. I just don't normally make like contact until.
Oh, I'm like liking photos from like 4 years ago. I'm like, hey, I'm down here. I got the same bathing suit.
Before they book you or after?
It could both.
Oh my gosh.
I know. One of my brides, I literally was like commenting on herself. I was like, oh, I have the same bathing suit. I was literally so far back in her feed and we just had like the best conversation. And then she booked with me. So there you go.
There you go. See, we each have our different ways.
Creepy. Yeah, I probably wouldn't like DM them and be like, hey, did you get my email? Like directly like, yeah, if she talked to me and then I noticed she hadn't followed up like how you did, but I probably wouldn't just DM them out of the blue.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
If they had no idea who, like, they don't even know that I have their Instagram, you know, it would just be really weird. But
right.
Like following them and commenting isn't weird, but that's just me. I don't know. They could totally think it's totally weird, but I get on my end, I'm like, it's fine.
I get like way too in my head about that stuff because if I'm following them and then they do book with me and then like, let's say I'd like send them with one of my brides like this past year, it's like I would send her stuff and she wouldn't be like answering the form. She took a really long time to respond to quite literally anything I sent her. But I would like see that she was like doing stuff on Instagram and I would be like, well, when are you gonna like do the thing that I sent you? Like I get like butthurt about it. I think
you are so jealous that she's doing something like, oh no, me. Oh,
what about me? So I do have a question then. At what point do you cut a lead loose and do you just say, you know, there's like no interest, I'm archiving your information? And do you think it should be considered a warning sign if they come back to you like a month or two later after their initial inquiry, or should you still move forward? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, I pretty much cut them completely loose after about 3 weeks because that starts cutting into the production time after that.
Okay.
So honestly, their spot probably like I probably won't have time to do it if it's like a wedding invitation client. But if they come back to me like a month later, I don't really take it as a warning sign. But that's just me. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the situation too. If like they were like, oh, we booked with someone, but they end up falling through because of whatever, which has happened. But and then, or if they're just like, I just took forever to get back to you, then that might be a warning sign or a red flag there. So I guess it just depends on the situation for me. But typically, I stop emailing leads follow-ups after 3 weeks. So I'm sending three emails.
Yeah, I would say it's about the same for me. I feel like I'm more emotionally attached to my leads than you, even though I know that's not, or like not that I'm emotionally attached to them, but since I don't want to like admit that I do feel butthurt, I'm more likely to hold on to them longer out of like desperation to see if I can get them to answer me. Like it like pains me to see that I've like sent a proposal and everything to somebody and they're sitting in there as a lead and like nothing has happened with them, because it takes a long time to do a quote and proposal, especially for custom wedding invitations. And not to be like a Debbie Downer about like photographers or anything, but I feel like that's easier when you have like pre-made packages that don't really change much. Like you're not doing a ton of legwork for your quotes unless you're doing something crazy I don't know about that involved in photography. But like with custom wedding invitations, I feel like there's like a dedication and a craft to making like a nice quote that's even semi-understandable.
Yeah, it takes some time. Like you have to really sit down and think about already what their design's going to look like, you know, the pieces involved, the type of printing involved to even give them an estimate. Like, so it does take quite a bit of time. So you really are investing a lot more upfront than, you know, just sending over here's package 1 or package 2. So yeah. But I can see why you would be more attached after that. But for me, I'm just like, oh, you don't want to book, it's your loss, fine. So I don't know, I'm like weirdly confident now.
This is very funny. Yeah, this is very funny. We're talking about this too, because I actually told Cammie before we did this episode, I was like, are we going to have enough to like talk about? Because I feel like with a lead, you just like let it go if they don't respond. And now I'm sitting here like gushing into the mic about like how annoyed I get when leads don't answer me. See? Like I'm more emotional about it than I realize. So
I know. I think we're in like a therapy session for you about leads right now. And so I'm like, see ya if you don't want to book. I literally, okay, so my last funnel, when I like close them out of the 3-week email, it says girl bye. That is what it says.
Oh my gosh.
I know, that is not a lie. So it really says that. So
do you ever have anybody reply to that? And what do they say if they do?
Oh no, I don't like send them girl bye. It's just like in the funnel in Dubsado. You know how you have like the name, it's like
a reminder.
Yeah. So my little like funnel thing, I guess it would be like, it's kind of like their little Trello board for the leads. You move it over, you know?
Yep.
So that was like the tag for that client if they don't follow up after 3 emails.
Okay.
But I've never had anyone come back after they have been in the girl bye category. So
yeah, I feel like at a certain point, like when they're gone, they're gone. I should probably go and clean out my leads after this, to be honest.
Yeah, I probably need to do that too.
Well, the thing that's even more confusing to me is when, like, I guess I'm able to accept that when you, like, send a proposal and there's no reply, you're like, okay, they probably can't afford it or they've gone some other way or something happened. But when I get like worked up about it is when they do reply to the proposal and I make changes and we're having some sort of conversation about it.
Right, I see.
And then like disappear. And I'm like, but wait, like we were working through this together. So what happened?
I totally know what you mean. Like if you send off a proposal, they don't respond, and you send off your emails and they don't respond at all. It's like, okay, well, I guess it just wasn't in the budget or something else happened. They booked someone else quickly. I don't know. Their friend decided to do their invitations. There's so many things it could have been. But yeah, once you like start talking to them and like having a little bit more relationship, learning more about what they want, and then they're just like, don't say anything back. You're like, what the heck did I do?
Like what just happened? Like what did I do?
Never know. Don't
Yeah.
you just want to email and be like, was it something I said?
That would
Like,
actually be very funny. That would be a very
That would
funny
be a-
follow-up email.
that would be a really good follow-up email. I'll be like, hey, I just want to know why you decided not to book with me. Actually, I might try that. I'm going to try that. And I'll
Is this
let you know
something
how
I
it
said?
goes.
That's
Is this
actually,
something I
would you
said?
do it as the subject or would you do it in like the body of the email?
I think I'm going to do it as the subject and then be like, hey, I'm just following up so I can better serve my clients in the future. Can you let me know why you decided not to book with me? I'd really appreciate it. And then I'm going to call them. No,
Can you like write that down and email it to me? Maybe
I
I'll
already wrote
use it
down.
too. I'll use it too. And we'll see if we can get any leads back by using that.
I know. I'm totally going to do this because I'm
had-
curious.
There was another person when I went to a Rising Tide meeting and we talked about workflows. This one photographer, he's local here in Marietta, Georgia. He has his whole like lead funnel automatically set up in Dubsado. So he's like one of those people who said he's forgotten to turn it off before. And then people will be like, what's going on? And he's like, oops. But his second follow-up email was so funny because it's like, ever read the novel All Quiet on the Western Front? ? And he like asks them, are you still interested in booking with me? Like, I haven't heard anything from you, which I thought was like really clever and funny. And he said he gets replies to that one all the time.
Honestly, that's amazing. And I love it. Like, you can totally have fun with your follow-up emails and making light of it. And so people don't feel so weird. I feel like our leads get really weird about like, oh, I don't want to let them know that I don't want to pay for their stuff or whatever. Like, we don't care. We just want to be able to clear our schedule and cross you off our lead list.
Gosh.
So maybe, just making it not so like, I don't know, serious and be like,
Yes.
hello,
You're so
you
right.
have not looked over the contract and our business proposition is not moving forward. Like, who's going to respond to that? I'm not. I know I'm not going to respond to that. I will go with you all day.
You know the photo of your cat that you sent me recently?
Yes.
I'll do this best to explain this to the listeners who obviously can't see the photo. It's basically Cammy's cat like barely peeping over the counter. You can see
cute.
part of his like eyes and a little bit of his nose, but you like can't see all of him. How funny would it be to send a picture like that and be like, this is me waiting for your reply.
Oh my gosh. I am 1,000% doing this. I'm like, this is happening. The next inquiry I get, I can't wait. They're going to get so many emails and be like, what is wrong with this person?
We should turn that into a meme. Turn that photo into a meme and just make it say, this is me waiting for your reply, and just start sending that to people that like aren't replying. I think you're right. I think humor is like a way to like bridge that gap of like if someone does feel awkward that they chose another route or forgot to reply or they can't afford it. It just like it provides a good way to like build that bridge and for them to not feel like so weird about it anymore. Because you're right, it does get like very oddly formal. Like it is formal, sending quotes and asking for money. Like, give me your money.
I think they're give me your money. I think they're so nervous about either hurting your feelings or just not really sure. Like they don't even want to ask you maybe they're too scared to ask you a question because you just sent them this super professional proposal and like, dang, they really got it together. I am not worthy. I mean, that probably doesn't happen. I'm just kidding, you guys. But honestly, just making it a little bit more lighter with humor and, having fun with your emails, adding in personality is always a win in my book. So
yeah, absolutely. Adding in like a little bit of personality to it.
Oh man, I cannot wait to send out these emails and let you guys know how they go.
Yeah, we've just
revamped our whole our entire follow-up system basically. So
I know this is like a brainstorming episode actually, instead of just talking about what to do. But this is just like so important, I think, for any aspect of your business, is you never know what'll happen if you make just a super small change. And I think it was an episode that I was listening to like way back of a different podcast where they were talking about micro changes. And it's just like, just the smallest things you do and the smallest things you tweak could make a really big difference.
Yes.
Like sending someone a silly meme of your cat, or, sending them a funny, was it something I said, like email, which I love.
Yeah. Or if you had like their address, you could even like actually physically mail them something.
Oh my
which would
gosh!
be
You know,
really
I don't
creepy.
think I don't collect their
I
physical
don't collect addresses either, but wouldn't that be kind of cool?
That would definitely be funny.
Cool or creepy? That's my new thing. I don't know if I'm cool or creepy. I really don't.
Cammie's creepy marketing tactics.
My creepy marketing tactics. First, get their home address, then find them on Instagram.
I think we do have to go ahead and say, though, that anymore, because of social media, all of this is considered normal. It's like not even creepy anymore to go find someone on social media.
Yeah, it's basically like your business card, and I don't know. Yeah, no one really thinks it's creepy anymore. I would be flattered if I reached out to a photographer and then they came and found me on Instagram. I'd be like, oh, they found me. Oh my gosh. I'm honestly way more inclined to follow up with them if they followed me back or something like that. So
yeah,
I don't know,
absolutely.
something to think about. Definitely putting yourself in your lead or your client's shoes can help brainstorm a lot of things. So
I know. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I know I definitely felt frazzled when I was planning my wedding. And part of it was I was planning my wedding out of state because I was in school in Seattle and everything was back home in Colorado. So my mom was basically taking care of everything for me along with the planner. They just kind of pick stuff for me. So I actually I don't think I ever had a time where I was doing vendor searching, or when I was sending multiple inquiry forms on websites. I don't think I went through that, but it sounds like obviously you did. If you
I just did with my photographer and my invitations. That was the only two. The rest I have no idea what even happened at our wedding. So
hey, to any of you listening, here's a fun freebie idea for an email. Create a follow-up template, something brides could download, and they could write who they've inquired with and what type of vendor they are and whether or not they followed up or got a quote. That would be kind of cute, right? Because
that actually is really helpful, because I was on pins and needles to email back the photographers, even though I really liked them, and I just went with a different one because I can't pick everyone. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hurt their feelings, and I'm so conflict avoidant. It was really hard for me to say we decided to go with someone else, but they were like, that is totally fine. Thank you so much. Everything was fine. But yeah, I totally overthought it as usual. So
oh yeah, you're right, because I don't think brides and grooms don't understand the vendor point of view. They don't understand that people are actually really thankful when you say you've chosen something else, because then they can just cross you off the list. It's a lot easier to move on. But you're right, their experience of the inquiry process is emotional too, in a different way. So
yeah, so make it fun and lighthearted.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about in terms of what to do when clients are ghosting you and to not get haunted in your life. But if you guys have more questions, you can always go to bizbirthdaybash.com/Q and Cake. This will be for our Q and Cake episodes, which will be little mini episodes that air. I don't know. We don't really know when they're going to air yet. And they will have all the questions you guys are asking, and we'll be answering them, and we'll have cake. So for you, for us, not for you. Sorry. You can bring cake too. It's fine.
Obviously, we want to hear from you guys for sure. So don't ghost us. Bring your questions.
Dang it. Why didn't I say that?
Because you can't have all the puns, Cammie. I get some of them, okay?
Okay, fine. But yes, don't ghost us. Find us on Instagram at bizbirthdaybash, and then I will creepily follow you back and like all your photos.
And while you guys are at it too, if you've been enjoying the episodes you've heard so far, definitely hit the subscribe button and leave us a review, because that's how we get noticed by iTunes, and that's how other people find us. So thank you ahead of time for doing that.
We love you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.